This podcast was inspired by an internship with the Museum of Motherhood. Please visit mommuseum.org for more information about the museum, to find out how you can get involved, and to help us strengthen our wonderful community of mothers. Again, that is mommuseum.org. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Bethany.
And I'm Amanda.
And we're sisters.
We are both toddler moms, but we have very different experiences of motherhood.
So we are on a mission to talk to different moms who all have different experiences.
With a whole lot of laughter, tears, and probably coffee, we embark on a journey to experience motherhood through the eyes of others.
Please join us on this journey as we explore motherhood through funny, loving, and very real memories.
This is Mom Talks with My Sister.
Hello, and welcome to Mom Talks with My Sister.
Hello. How's it going today?
Well, work is so stressful right now. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
With this office expansion that I'm kind of dealing with, it just keeps me on my toes. And every day I feel like there's a new change. I'm like, yes, I have my plan nailed down. And then it's like, no, you don't, because we're going to change it on you now. So,
well, it's so funny too, because it's like you're a mom when you're at home, but then you're also a mom when you're at work. Every story that I hear, it's like you're a mom to adults at work.
Yes, 100%. 100%. They're like, Bethany, so when are they going to come empty my garbage? And I'm like, they're not going to come empty your garbage. You have to put your garbage in the trash can in the hallway, and they empty the main trash cans. No one is going to empty my garbage. And I'm like, no, that's on you. I don't know what to say. So
it's one of those things like when your bathroom garbage gets full and you're like, no one's going to come and empty my bathroom garbage. Like, no,
Yes.
You put it in the garbage, in the big garbage. I don't know. Like, that's what we do in our house.
That's exactly what I do. I don't know. I don't know why, but like, I don't ever put a bag in my bathroom garbage either. Like, I know they sell small bathroom garbage bags, but I don't.
So I used to. So,
Did you?
I think by now, maybe the majority of the listeners realize what state we live in, just because of the few things that we've referenced. But in the state of New York, a couple years ago, they outlawed plastic bags. And so we have this amazing grocery store from our area, Wegmans. Shout out Wegmans. You can sponsor us if you want. But that was like the thing that everybody in this area did, is once you were done grocery shopping, you saved your plastic Wegmans bag. So we were always recycling them. Like,
Right.
But I guess then eventually they make their way into the garbage. But
Yeah.
that's what we used them for, was we didn't just throw them away. We used them to collect our garbage in our small garbage cans. So now that we don't have them, I guess I've just gotten like used to not having a bag in like my bathroom garbage or like my small garbages.
Whenever speaking of outlawing the bags and the plastic bags, whenever I'm out of state and I get asked, do you want a bag? I always look at them like they're crazy now. I'm like, that's illegal. You can't give out plastic bags. Like, and then like, oh wait. But it's funny how quickly you kind of get used to that. You know what I mean? Like now it's just second nature for me to not have a bag, to bring my own. So.
Right. But you want to know what's really funny, and then we'll get off this topic, is that I never called them plastic bags. I always called them Wegmans bags. Like,
Always.
if you were going to use some form of a plastic bag, it wasn't a plastic bag. You refer to them as a Wegmans bag. And now our Wegmans bags are reusable, which are good. I mean, I think we can all like agree that like, it's better. But for a long time, it was just like, oh, my Wegmans bag. And what is that? Oh, it's just the plastic bag that now lines my garbage can in my bathroom.
But we also have to acknowledge here that a Wegmans bag was always a big Wegmans bag on the outside, stuffed full of plastic Wegmans bags. So you had your bag of bags. And it was just, I feel like every house that I ever went to, any house that I would visit, it was just a normal commonplace. You had your bag of bags.
Right. I feel like anybody who's listening to this in our area right now is like, oh my gosh, yes, reminiscing about it. Anybody not from this area is like, why are they talking this much about plastic Wegmans bags?
Right? They're like, this is still what we do. We still have a bag of bags. Well, anyway, let's hop into mom moments for
Sounds
today.
good.
Would you like to start or would you like me to start?
Sure, I'll start today. So really, really cute moment with my daughter this morning. She's been really good, and now that we're gearing up towards the holidays and Christmas time, we're always telling her, make sure you stay in bed, make sure you tell us when you have to go potty, those things. Make sure you're following directions. And she has a sticker chart where she earns prizes. And so this morning I gave her, she got this little makeup palette. I found this cheap little makeup palette on one of my favorite sites in the world. And I'm not going to share what it is because it's like my secret gem. I don't want everyone running to because no one that I ever talk to knows what this site is. And it's kind of like, it's like an Amazon, but it's like early days of Amazon, but it's like just little like boutique stores. And I love it. But anyways, so I found this really cheap palette for like, I don't know, like $3.99 or $4.99 or something. And it's an eyeshadow palette. And it comes with like a little mirror and it's in like this compact and it's got like a little brush and a little like brush holder. And it's actually decent, but like, it got here. And of course the eyeshadow is not like, it's not the greatest. It's like, it's very cheap. It just, rubs it off. So I was like, perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for it. So she wanted to do her makeup this morning. So I handed her the palette and she is just doing her makeup away. And she looks up at me and she goes, Mommy. And it's so funny because I sent this picture out to all of, you guys in the family. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's this bright blue eyeshadow. And she looked fantastic. And she got it on her eyes. She got a little under her eyes for, a little like under the eyeliner. But she looked straight out of like a 90s Mary Kay magazine, just like these rosy cheeks and these bright, pink rosy cheeks and this bright blue eyeshadow just everywhere. It was adorable. And I was like, girl, you get it. You live your best life right now. So it was just really cute.
My favorite part of it is that she's just like watching you and she's learning, like just watching you get ready for work. And she's like wanting to mimic you and do what you do. And that is just so much fun. Like she looked adorable.
Thank you. Yeah. It was cute. But yeah, it was definitely a mom moment of me doing my makeup while she was on the floor doing her makeup. And it was as funny as I made it, it was a really, really special moment. And I'm really happy that we did get to share it. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. How about you? What's your mom moment?
So I have a funny one. So recently my son, he has found the love of the library, let me tell you, which,
Love
me,
that.
I love the library. So I'm happy that he loves the library. But we've been having a hard time finding books that he like enjoys and wants to read more than once. And we found one, and I can't remember the name of it. It's something like, do you need a hug or something like that? And it shows all these little baby animals needing hugs from their parents, whether like the hippo falls down and gets a scrape on his knee and the raccoon is scared of the thunderstorm and, the mama gives the baby a hug. But so the hippo has a scrape on his knee and my son always wants to kiss the hippo's knee. And he now is showing me boo-boos on his legs that he is literally in front of me, quote, causing. He fake hits himself. He'll like, I don't know. I don't want to say he doesn't hit himself hard. He like fake hits himself and he goes, ow, boo-boo, kiss it. So now he's like pretending to like have a boo-boo. So I'll kiss his boo-boo. But he's obsessed with this book and we have read it. Like he makes us read it like 4 or 5 times a night right now. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to return it to the library, but I'm gonna end up having to buy it for him. So,
right.
But it's very
so
funny.
Cute, though. He's like, Mom, love me. Like, and if you're not going to love me, I'm going to make you love me.
Yes, because, and I told him that today because he pretended to like hit his knee and say, ow, boo boo. I said, you can just ask for a kiss. Like, I'll give you a kiss if you're just like, Mommy, kiss. Like, you don't have to pretend you're hurt. But I guess it's more fun.
That's cute. It's like, it's the exact like inner workings of a child's brain right there,
Yes, absolutely.
Very literal.
Absolutely. So, well, with that, awesome. I think that we can introduce today's guest.
I'm so
Today's
excited for today's guest.
So am I. This is a reschedule from a while ago because of
Yes.
technical difficulties. So
Technical difficulties.
it is, the struggle is real. That struggle is very real. But so today's guest is Crystal. She is a mom of one, and today she will be sharing her experience of the struggles of motherhood versus career woman. Crystal described herself as a mother of one child, two much furrier children, and a man child, also known as her husband. She is the chief operations officer, admin assistant, chef, house cleaner, driver, dog walker, cheerleader, social worker, etc., all at home, while working as a senior research scientist at a biotech company with a clinical stage cancer immunotherapy drug. She also dabbles as a photographer and a graphic designer for work, sports, and activities for her son and for her own passion. Her son has a severe food allergy, so throw that into all the chaos. With that said, she loves her life, she loves her tribe, she loves her work. Every day is an emotional roller coaster, yet she wouldn't change a thing. Without further ado, we would like to welcome Crystal to Mom Talks with My Sister.
Hi,
Crystal.
Welcome. Well, thank you for having me on here.
Thank you for joining.
And I just would like to say that I think we all should be ashamed of the lack of hats that we wear compared to Crystal, because I feel like Crystal, the amount of hats that she wears, she's got to have like a room full of just hats on the wall. You know, like in Schitt's Creek, if anybody watched that in Schitt's Creek, where Moira's got her wigs on the wall. This is Crystal with her hats of all the things that she is responsible for.
Oh, I love that. I know you're reading off this list, and I'm like, wow, I sound really busy. When do I sleep?
Right?
I'm also wondering the same thing. When do you sleep, Crystal?
Isn't it so funny though? Because it's like that's something that comes up a lot when people are asking, like, oh, like what do you do? And you start telling them, and you're like, wow, how do I do this?
I do all that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's just like when you are in it, you find a way to make it work.
Yeah,
and it doesn't seem like that much. It's your life, right? But it's like when you actually write it down and you realize, oh my God, I do all of this stuff. You're like, holy crap, go me.
That's why I'm stressed.
Yeah, right. Right. So
you've now heard it out loud and you're like, oh, this explains a lot.
It does. I think I need a nap and a drink.
Yes. Yeah. Or both. Both works. Or both. So, Crystal, let's first talk about what you do for a living. And I mean, you briefly described it, but tell us in layman's terms, because you're really smart. Let's just start there too. Tell us what it is that you actually do for a living.
Okay, so what I do. I am, as you stated, a senior research scientist for a biotech company. I do translational science. So that means basically we take what we learn from the lab doing research and bring it into the clinic for patients and for clinical trials. And I work in the immuno-oncology field, so for cancer. And the drug that my company has that I work with is an immunotherapy. So that is an antibody that we use in patients with cancer, basically to try to boost the immune system, to get the immune system to help fight the cancer. My job specifically is when we have patients on trials, we get samples from these patients, tumor samples, and I take these samples and investigate them to look at, to try to figure out our mechanism of action of our drug. So I absolutely love what I do. I know I'm a big geek, but science geek, but I absolutely love it. It's what I've always wanted to do. I've never wanted to do anything else. And although I don't ever meet any of these patients that I deal with, we become very close to them in a sense where, we're really following along with how they're doing on these trials. And it really breaks our hearts, when we lose a patient on a trial And we try our best to use the tissues the best we can to try to help these people and the future generations.
Well, even though you think that you're a geek, I think that it's awesome, because without people like you, like trying to cure cancer, then where would we be, right? Like, I couldn't do what you do, but you're a good geek.
Well, thank you.
You're my favorite kind of
It's a good thing
geek.
to it's a good thing to be a geek about, right? Like, it's one of those, like, be proud to be, like you say, a geek in that aspect.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a geek about fantasy football, and that's not saving lives. You are.
That's true. That's true. So, Crystal, going back to like one of our very first episodes, we had jokingly talked about, the quote, "Do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life." And I had said to Bethany, I was like, I genuinely really like my job, but I still consider it work. So, it seems like you were one of those people that, like, this statement, it really kind of is referring to. So did you always know that this was an area that you were passionate about before you got into it?
So that's funny. When I was listening to your previous podcast and I heard you guys talking about that, I was like, oh, wait, you guys were like, I don't know if I know anybody who, has ever felt this way. And, I've never felt that way. And I was like, oh, me. That describes me.
Crystal's like, pick me.
That's not normal. I thought that was just normal. No, so actually I was thinking about that a lot the other day. And so I can remember distinctly, I mean, when I was really young, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I've always wanted to help. And then I decided when I got a little older that I wanted to be a doctor. And then I distinctly remember it was 8th grade science class, and we were learning about the immune system and antibodies. And it just like clicked with me. And I was like, this fascinates me. This is what I want to do. I want to do something with the immune system, something with antibodies. This is my passion. And from that day on in 8th grade science class, I have worked towards where I am today, which we have our drug that's in the clinic is an antibody helping the immune system. And it's always been that and nothing else. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. There's so much envy in that, like, for me, because it's, I still don't know what I want to do. And I think I've said that before, like, again, and I very genuinely like my job, but I'm like, I don't know, like, is this what I'm supposed to do forever? And for you, I mean, it's just you are so one of those people that found what you were so passionate about so early on. And I just, like I said, it's an envy of that, of having that experience in your life.
Yeah. And I can definitely say after I listened to your podcast, we were talking about, people saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I'm like, I can honestly say, I don't feel like I work. Like, my job is like my hobby. And especially now after COVID, I can work from home a lot. And it's like my personal life and my work life are really just all one and the same. I mean, I will get up in the morning and get my son ready for school and take care of the dogs. And then I jump on my computer and start doing work. And then I'll go throw in a load of laundry, and then I'll come back and do some work. And then when my son gets home from school, I'll do stuff with him, make dinner, we'll all hang out. And sometimes later at night, I'll get my laptop out and we'll be watching TV. And here I am looking at tumors and doing stuff for work. And it just doesn't ever feel like work. It's just, like I said, I really love what I do. And so I just kind of keep on going.
And then there's me working on my 5th college degree. What do I want to do?
And then there's me who doesn't like numbers and math. And it's literally my job. And what I do for a living is all numbers and math and money and finance. And I'm like, how did this happen in my life?
I know. Definitely envy. Definitely envy. And I'm so
Envy.
happy that you have that in your life where you are like, you are able to just incorporate work throughout your whole day and enjoy it. Because let me tell you, when I leave work, I leave work. I'm like, nope, no.
I mean,
Not bringing that home.
Right.
I work with a great team where I work. We have a small group, and I mean, we're texting each other, emailing each other, sometimes at midnight, like, oh my gosh, we have to have this for tomorrow. And I'll get out of bed and go jump on my computer and do something. And then I'll sleep in the next morning a little bit. Or, we're just really flexible and a really great team, all working towards the same goal. And it's really great.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, too, that's the kind of team that I would want working on, trying to find a way to help me with cancer, right? Is a team that's going to want to work on it, not feel forced to work on it, but want to work on it at all hours of the night and day, like because you enjoy it. And when you enjoy something, you give more of yourself to it. And when it comes to finding, a cure, if not a cure, but a treatment for cancer, that's what's important, right? Like you need people like
Absolutely.
you. So.
I mean, when there's a problem, I've worked with many people that are like, I couldn't get this to work. This doesn't work. It's not going to happen. And that's never been an answer for me. It's, why isn't this working? How can I get around it? I will find a way to make this work, no matter what it takes. And, you do it for these patients, and you do it for potentially your family and friends down the line. And you do it for people in the past that you've lost. And actually, it's interesting because before coming onto this podcast to talk, I was thinking about it, and I was like, I've always remembered in my career that it was 8th grade science class that I, learned about immunology and antibodies and fascinated me and decided that's what I wanted to do. And I forgot to mention it earlier. One of the other reasons I decided to go into research was, instead of being a doctor, was I felt that in the research field, you could make a bigger impact, that you could reach more people than your physical hands could touch. And that was my reasoning from switching between wanting to be a doctor and getting into the research field. But I actually was doing the math before I came over here, because my mom was first diagnosed with cancer 11 years before she passed away. And I did the math, and I was about 13 when she first was diagnosed, which was about 8th grade.
So it lined up.
So, but that is nothing that I've ever thought about with choosing my career and wanting to be in the immuno-oncology field.
It's amazing how this podcast has almost become therapy for not just us, but for our guests. Like people have, realizations, or they say things are like, I never thought of that before,
Absolutely.
So it's almost like therapy for moms. So I think it's great that we're doing this. I didn't mean to cut you off, Crystal. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just going to say, I know that, in more recent years, that it's been a really big push for me and impact on me is losing my mom to cancer. But I never thought about that was the first time that she was diagnosed, was right around the time that I was adamant this is what I was going to do with my life.
That's crazy that, that's that connection kind of has come later.
Yeah.
But, well, so speaking of your mom, and this kind of ties into our guest from last week, who also became a mom without her mom. You lost your mom a couple of years before you had your son.
Correct. Yeah.
So your mom was never there for any of last week's guest. Her mom passed when her daughter was just around 2.
Okay.
So, I'm curious to ask how that, not having your mom there when you went through, your stages of life after you got married and you decided to have a child, and not having her there, how did that impact you when you got pregnant? Who did you lean on? Who did you talk to during all that?
I think my husband and I really formed an additional bond when I was pregnant, because I didn't have my mom to go to, which a lot of women do. I am a very independent person, But I really leaned on my husband for a lot. I mean, he's always been my best friend, and we kind of navigated it just together whenever I'd have issues. Most of my friends hadn't had children yet. I couldn't really ask my dad anything. So it was tough. There was, especially with hormones and emotions, and at times when I was very sick during my pregnancy, and it was really hard. And sometimes I just wanted my mom and just to talk to, if nothing else, or to ask questions, or to ask if these were things that occurred to her when she was pregnant, and is this normal? And I didn't have that, and I didn't really have anybody to ask that. So it was hard. And like I said, but I think in turn, my husband and I really formed a stronger bond because of it.
Yeah. That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's sweet. Well, so you are actually studying, I might be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you're studying the type of cancer that your mom had.
Yes.
Was that by choice, or was that like just coincidental?
No. So we had actually started in non-small cell lung cancer with our drug in the clinic, and then we saw some positive results, but we needed to go into an indication that had kind of a different subset of cells that we thought our mechanism of action leaned closer to. And after a lot of the research that I did pointed towards head and neck cancer, which is what my mom had. So that was really just what was the best fit for our drug, and was really, really exciting when they first told me that that's where they were going to go into next. So we currently have a clinical trial in head and neck cancer right now that we're enrolling patients for. And it's, I can't even explain how proud, I don't know if proud's the right word, like just, I feel like I'm making a difference, and that maybe I can help people to never have to go through what my mom did and what all of us did losing her. And now I'm going to cry.
Crystal, I'm so sorry.
But I just am filled with gratitude, and I put my all into my work, and I really want to help people. I want to help these people on our trial, and I want to help people in the future. And it's just been amazing. And everyone that I work with knows my past, and they've all been really great about everything. And have given me a lot of leeway to kind of take things on my own and kind of investigate in some slightly different directions. And it's been really gratifying.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
It's, you're clearly so passionate to begin with, and now being able to do what you're doing and studying the cancer that your mom had, it takes that passion to a whole new level where I don't think anybody, there's probably like maybe 0.5% of the population could be in the understanding of like what you're actually doing and what you're experiencing and how that makes you feel. So, again, you're here, on the podcast specifically being passionate about your career, but losing your mom and now studying that type of cancer, it just takes that passion just above and beyond what I think anybody could ever comprehend.
Sometimes I'm like, am I in a dream? Is this really my life? Because this is something I said I wanted to do from a young age. And then now being in the indication that took my mom's life, and hopefully will make a difference for other people in that type of cancer. It's kind of surreal, actually. Sometimes I just sit back and I'm like, how did I get here? Is this real?
Yeah. That's awesome.
So Crystal, Were you in this position before or after you became a mom? And I know that you kind of answered that, but so I'm wondering if it was like the exact thing that you're doing now, or I mean, obviously you weren't in line for this career, but also like to piggyback on that, how did becoming a mom affect or change your career? So this might be like one and the same answer, or kind of go all together.
Okay, so to start, I was at the same company that I'm at now. I believe when I first got pregnant, I may have been running a different type of assay in the lab. But it was like right after I think I moved to a new position and then found out right afterwards that I got pregnant or that I was pregnant. So that was interesting. Working in a lab when pregnant is interesting. So typically, like I had mentioned before, I got very, very sick throughout my whole pregnancy. I was throwing up on average 10 to 12 times a day minimum.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I couldn't keep any food down. I was just so nauseous, so sick. I think I lived, and this happened throughout the entire pregnancy. It didn't go away. So I was living on Triscuits and melted cheddar cheese. That was like the only thing I could eat when I was pregnant.
Which sounds amazing, but I can imagine that when that's the only thing you can eat, you're like, please, dear God, no one ever show me a Triscuit or melted cheddar cheese ever again.
Exactly. I still have a little, twitch when I see a Triscuit and melted cheese, but it was horrible because I was working in the lab at that time. Now in my position, I do more work on the computer and kind of managing the lab. But at that point, I was full-time in the lab doing experiments, which are all timed. So, I mean, you have 5 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes, whatever, between when you have to do steps, and there's no deviation. I mean, you have to do the next step at that point or you ruin the experiment. So I would be in the lab and I have my lab coat on and my gloves and all this, and all of a sudden I'd get that wave come over me and gloves would be ripped off, coat ripped off, and I'd be running to the bathroom to throw up. Sometimes I didn't make it that far. I would be in the garbage can. So it was tough. And then just the stress of everything that I was learning new at work in the new position, which I loved. But then feeling so sick and just being so tired. I remember we have a room upstairs for mothers who are pumping, and it has a leather couch in it. And many, many times I would go up there during my lunch break and just lock the door and lay on the couch and take a nap because I just couldn't function anymore. I also remember that at the end of my pregnancy, it was kind of hard with this huge stomach trying to do some of the experiments. And I remember joking with my coworkers that I was going to leave and go out when I could no longer button my lab coat. And they were fearful because the buttons were stretched to their limit. One was going to come flying off at any point.
Break a glass test tube. Damn it.
Yes. And actually, I did have one incident. I was doing a lot of work on microscopes at that time, which is another thing that working with a microscope when you feel nauseous is not the best job.
Oof.
So, but I would have to reach back behind this big microscope and change things, change settings. And at one point, my stomach was just larger, and I didn't even know that I did it at first. I just leaned on back and just snapped off a piece of the microscope with my stomach. And,
oh, no.
Yep, we had everything was down for a few days. We had to order a new part, and yep, I just.
Oh no.
Yep. So it was interesting. It was very tough.
being pregnant definitely impacted your job for sure. Where like the rest of us, you know, if we're not feeling well, like, oh, we're going to go home or we're going to take a nap or I'm going to take, you know, like 5 minutes and I'm just going to go walk around or, you know, whatever it may be, where your job is so different, like you said, with all your timed things and now breaking microscopes and doing what you're not supposed to do with your belly, you know. So like
Absolutely.
it really affected your job. That's, you know, again, this is such a cool interview to be learning about this.
It did. And another aspect was that I work with a lot of chemicals. So we had to do a whole workup on what chemicals I used and safety, what I could continue using, what I couldn't. So there were certain things that I couldn't even do that I had to have other people do for me because it was chemicals that I wasn't able to be around while pregnant. So it did affect my job quite a bit.
Now, you said that when you got pregnant, you were just put into a new position. It doesn't sound like that changed, though. Like your job was very accommodating. Your work was
Absolutely
allowed you to, you know, maintain career trajectory.
Yes.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
There was no change in that sense. Like I said, my colleagues and the company I work for is absolutely wonderful. They were very flexible as they could be, you know, with the experiments I was running and everything. And so that has never been an issue. There was never a problem or delay in me moving up in the company because of pregnancy or anything like that. So no.
That's great. That's really cool to hear. I love that.
And it's nice too that you're saying that they even had, you know, a separate room for women that had to pump or things like that. Because, you know, even the company that I worked at prior to having my daughter, there was nothing like that. There was, you know, it was a decent sized company and there was nothing that accommodating, you know, there. So it's nice because it seems like they were accommodating just in general to you.
Absolutely. And we're a small company. At that point, we were probably just under 50 people. And it was kind of the end of a cubicle row. And they had put walls up all the way to the ceiling and a locking door. They had a leather couch and a refrigerator and a little table. And so you could keep all of your stuff right in there. It was very nice. Although I do have a funny story about that room.
I was going to ask you about this one.
I forgot about that until this moment. So being a small company, I work very closely with everyone, the CEO, you know, basically everyone in the company. And after I had my son, I was in the room pumping. And, you know, first of all, it was kind of odd because it was the corner, the end of the hallway. So there was full windows on 2 walls. And we were up on the 2nd floor, so I never really closed the blinds because I figured no one could really see. But, you know, when you're pumping, you're kind of just hanging out there and very exposed. But the door's locked on this little cubicle area. And I hear voices outside, and I can hear that it's the CEO of my company. And it sounded like he was giving someone a tour. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I hear him come closer, and I hear him talking about how this is a room that women can use, you know, after they have children for pumping, this and that, whatever terminology he used. And then without warning, just grabs the handle and pushes on the door really hard. And the whole wall like shakes. I thought for sure that door was opening and the CEO of my company was coming into this room with me just hanging out with these machines hanging off my boobs. And then he didn't just stop. He kind of shook it a couple times and then stopped for a minute and was like, oh, someone must be in there.
Oh my gosh.
I was just like, that was it. I said, if that door opens, I have to put in not even my 2 weeks. Like, I'm just walking out. Like, I can never come back.
Chris was like, here's my 2 minutes.
Yes, there's no recovering from that.
It's like, how do you respond, especially when somebody keeps trying to get in? It's not like it's like a restroom where you're like, occupied.
Right?
Someone's in here.
What do you say?
But also, okay, we have all
Pumping
pumped.
in session.
Well, so, oh no, Amanda, you didn't pump. Excuse me, you didn't pump. Okay, but you have heard me pump. You've been around pumps. Those things aren't quiet. Like,
No.
And I had like the super huge machine that you can rent from the hospital. So it was like supercharged and it was really loud. And it was actually really embarrassing anyways, because it was still a cubicle, even though they built the walls on that all the way to the ceiling and put a locked door on it. But the IT guy at the time was a little sketchy, and he was the last office right before that. So when I'd have to go in there, I knew he was sitting right over there, and all you hear is that. And it was always a little awkward, but
yeah.
But yeah, for sure. I thought that was it. I love my job, but that was going to be it. If my CEO walked in on me while I was pumping.
Plus, not to mention, after that, when you have to leave, is it like the walk of shame where like you're like, well, he tried to get in. The IT guy knows what I'm doing. The CEO now knows what I'm doing. The people he was giving a tour now knows what I'm doing. And now I have to walk out of this little cubicle and be like, well, all done. Who's next?
Fresh milk in the refrigerator if anyone wants some.
Comes at body temp.
Actually, I never felt like that though.
That's good.
I think I was always so embarrassed about everything, but after having a kid, a lot of that just went away. I mean, you're so exposed in the hospital and you're just like, whatever, everything's hanging out. Everybody's seeing everything. It really does change things. So, I mean, I was a little embarrassed when I was actually pumping and I knew it was so quiet and that the IT guy was sitting right on the other side of this thin wall. But other than that, I guess the only time I had really the walk of shame was when I was still pregnant and I used to go up to that room and lock myself in and take a nap. And then I would quietly try to come out and hope nobody would be walking by to see me.
See, but now to be fair, when I was pregnant, and I think it must have been my first trimester because it was my first trimester. I was a zombie and I'd get to lunch and I'd be like, I just can't. And I would go, because we didn't have a space like that at my job either. So I would go and sleep in the back seat of my car. And this is when I had like my crappy old Ford Focus. And I would just like shove myself in the back seat and I would pass out. And then sometimes I would just sleep past my lunch break.
Well, that happened many times. That was where the walk of shame came. Like, it's 2:30 in the afternoon. It's almost time to go home.
So how about now? Obviously your son is here. We are very much past pregnancy and birth. He's a young man now.
I know.
And so you're obviously still very in depth into these clinical trials, and you just came back from a conference. So how are you balancing your passion for work and motherhood, and how did you do it all these years to now? Has it changed? What have you learned?
That's a lot of questions.
Okay.
Let me
start with one at a time.
So there's definitely, it's like a roller coaster. There's times when everything is running so smoothly and things are going great at work and I feel great, and things are going great at home and I feel great and I feel like I'm on top of the world. And then that can very easily flip-flop and there's a lot of pressure on work to get stuff done. That's taking a lot of time. And my son, he's 10 now, so he's into a lot of sports and doing a lot of activities. So it's like he has games and he has all kinds of things with school that I don't want to miss out on. So sometimes I feel like I can barely keep my head above water, and it's just, I feel like I'm failing in all aspects of my life. I'm failing at work. I'm failing at being a wife. I'm failing at being a mom. And those times are really, really hard. But it is like a roller coaster. I mean, you get into those moments and then you just keep on going somehow, one day after another. And then things will get better for a while and just cycles.
Yeah.
But
I think
it's the ebb and the flow.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, we all kind of experience that where it's like you feel like you're on top of the world and everything's going exactly the way it's supposed to. And then you go downhill real fast sometimes.
Yeah.
And you're stuck down there for a while.
Yeah.
But so you're definitely not alone in those feelings. I guarantee you that.
I do feel there's some times where I just am so overwhelmed with everything that I have to just stop absolutely everything. I'm like, I just need a moment to breathe. I need some time to myself. I can't think about work. I can't think about our crazy family, hectic schedule. I just need to clear my mind and kind of refresh myself. And then I can jump back into it. But there's definitely been times that I've had to miss my son's games for work-related events, and times when it's just really hard to hit deadlines for work because of so much that's going on in my home life. And it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like there's no one way to balance it all. It's what works at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And you kind of just do it, it's like you said earlier, it's like, it might not be perfect. And, you may realize after the fact, that hindsight is 2020 type of a thing. But in the time, you do the best that you can. And especially when you're fortunate enough to have a career you're so passionate about, but also a family that you're so passionate about, trying to find that balance is not an easy task. But I mean, you have such a amazing head on your shoulders, Crystal, and you're such an inspiration to so many people that you do such a good job at it that, I mean, everybody that I know knows you or that doesn't know you and is listening to this is going to look up to you and be like, wow, that is a power woman right there.
I also feel like I have a really great support system. I have, like I've mentioned before, my husband, even though I have called him another man-child or my man-child that I have to also take care of, but he really is my best friend and a great support for me. And I have amazing family, amazing friends, and my colleagues at work are just, I'm so grateful for them because they're so understanding and always there to help out when they can. And we kind of just pass things back and forth to each other when someone's overwhelmed and really do work well as a team. So I feel like I have a great team both at work and at home.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's, I find that there are very common themes and I tend to point them out when we're recording. And beyond asking for help, which comes up in almost every single episode, asking and accepting help. The other one is to build a support system,
Absolutely.
You don't have your mom, unfortunately, but you have had to build a support system and you've done that, and no one will ever take the place of your mom, and you will always want your mom to be here. But, you have found a way to have people in your life who can kind of help you through, and
absolutely
not take her place in any way, shape, or form, but be there for you when you need it.
I think that's one of the most important things is whoever your support system is, you need to have those people for those rainy days, for those days that you just can't, to have someone there to either tell you, you know what, you just have to saddle up and keep on going, or to have someone to give you a hug and a shoulder to cry on, or, someone to help take some of the workload.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really a necessity.
Yeah. I definitely agree.
That's great
Amanda,
advice.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions you want to ask Crystal at this time?
Besides going back to exactly what she does and having her start from the very beginning, no, I'm just kidding.
Just start over, explain in a little bit more later.
I should have prepared a PowerPoint because I love presentations.
I love a good PowerPoint.
The best.
I apologize for not having one ready for this podcast.
The best thing was, so she just came back from her conference and she said in the group chat, she's like, "Here's my poster." We all opened it and we were all like, I don't know what we're looking at. Ryan, I opened it and I tried so hard and I'm like, this is a great poster. But Ryan was the first one who was just like, I opened it and I don't know what it was.
There's too many big words. Too many big words.
Pictures, though.
Yeah, the pictures were great. The poster itself was set up beautifully. The words were a different language. I don't know what they said. Pimbendin.
Papinamab.
Pimpinamab.
That is our drug, yes. Papinamab.
Look, see, I read it.
We call it Peppy.
Oh, Peppy.
Peppy.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right.
I'm going to need some Pimpinamab tomorrow morning when I wake up because we're staying up too late.
Pimpinamab. We're going to get it. All right. So, Crystal, do you have anything else that you would like to share?
At this point, I think we're good.
Awesome. Amanda, do you want to explain to Crystal our next segment?
I would love to. This is my favorite segment. So, Crystal, there in front of you is a big wheel. And yes, it's a real wheel. So on this wheel, there are numbers for questions that we don't know what questions we're going to get. But this is Ask a Mom. And these questions were submitted by people that we may know or friends of friends. And they either don't want kids, don't have kids, aren't sure if they want kids one day, but they would like to ask a mom a question. So we are going to answer, and we always say in as short form as possible, but it's always long answers. That's fine. So you're going to spin the wheel, and whatever number you get, we're going to see what random question. And this will be as much fun for you as it is for us because we don't know what the question is going to be either.
No idea.
I do have to say this wheel is beautiful. It has like a rainbow of colors.
Yes.
So I really love that.
You have to pull it that way because I had to fix
this way?
it. Yeah.
Oh,
You really got to spin it.
That's
Like the Price is Right. You got to make sure it goes all the way around.
All right.
Does that say 10.3?
Yes, because our 10th submission had 3 questions on it. And we don't want to answer all 3 in one.
Okay.
So we're going to do
very confused. That's very specific.
So question 10.3.
10.3.
It's a scientific question for our scientist. That is all. Okay. Question 10.3 comes from Casey, age 27. Her question is, could you discuss the debate between breastfeeding and formula? Oh, this is going to be an interesting one because we all have very different experiences of this. You can
want me to start?
Go for it if you're ready.
Yeah.
So I am very much about, do what you feel comfortable with. When you have a child, you just give birth. There is so much stress. There is so much going on. Whatever you can do. Whatever you can't do, there's formula. Your child's going to be fine. So I don't shame anyone for which way they do. I think that I understand the stress and whatever you're comfortable with, and your child will be fine. I personally, being a scientist, know that the child is lacking many part of the immune system, many antibodies that they can't quite make on their own when they're first born. So my goal was to breastfeed for the first 3 months at least, because it's those first 3 months that they need the antibodies from the mother that they can't make. And being in the immunology field, that was something that was very important to me. So like I said, it was very stressful. I would never want to do it again, but, I tried to breastfeed for the first few months just for that, immune boost. But I also think that a child will get all the nutrients that they need through formula in this day and age with the medical care and clean water and everything that we have. I don't think that it's really a big deal one way or another, whatever you decide.
Good answer.
Yeah.
So she comes in with the scientist, and I'm just going to come in with I didn't like it. She's got a good reason. For me, I agree in that, however you choose to feed your baby. If your baby is fed, that is what is important. Formula has come such a long way. And like you said, especially with, the cleaner drinking water and all the other environmental factors, it isn't life or death anymore, right? To breastfeed versus formula feed. I personally was never comfortable with the idea of latching. It was never something, although it is obviously very natural, never something that felt natural to me. So I knew from the beginning that I was not going to breastfeed. However, on the flip side of that, I also didn't want to pay for formula. So I opted to go exclusive pumping, which was double the work. It was just double the work of everything. It doubles the work of formula, but it doubles the work of breastfeeding because you're pumping, you're packaging, you're freezing, you're thawing, you're feeding. So it's just like, instead of just like baby to boob or bottle to baby, like, no, I mean, kudos to you, exclusive pumper moms. I did it for 4 months. I get it. But it's not something I would want to do again. And if I do have another kid, which at this point, I don't know if we will, but if I do, I will probably personally go straight to formula. Maybe I'll pump for like a week just to get that colostrum or something. But I probably will.
So I have a personal question for you with you just pumping. I don't know if I ever asked you this. Did you bleed? Did your nipples bleed?
Not once.
Oh my God. I hated breastfeeding.
Yeah.
I did it because for my son and all my crazy geeky science reasons, but it hurt. I didn't know. That was one of those things that no mom ever told me was that your nipples will bleed.
Yeah.
They will scab over.
Oh.
And then you keep on feeding with bloody, bleeding nipples with open sores. And I would be in tears breastfeeding because it hurt so bad.
No, see, and I feel like a part of that, and I've only done the exclusive pumping thing once, so maybe another exclusive pumping mom has a different experience, but I feel like a part of it is nipple skin and like lip skin feel very similar, right? And when you think about if you have dry lips and you lick your lips, the saliva actually dries them out more.
Yeah.
And then they get chapped and then they crack and they bleed. So it's like, I'm sure that part of it, you're the scientist, but I'm sure part of it is that, with the baby actually having the saliva and the biting method, or what is the word I'm looking for? Not method, the bite movement. It's late. The saliva and then the baby from actually suckling and kind of like biting, you don't get those two things with the pump. So no, I didn't, thank God I didn't experience that. I would have thrown that pump out the window a long time before I did. All right, Amanda, your turn. How about you? Breastfeed, formula feed, thoughts on both?
So this is wild that this is the question we were asked tonight because our cousin had a baby a few days ago, and her and I were texting each other today, and she was talking about how stressful breastfeeding is, and she was kind of getting my opinion and my thoughts on it, and I'm not saying my thoughts are right. I would preface my answer with this. The one thing that I will say is that no one, just more kind of back to the question, Casey's question originally, no one should, my stance, my opinion, no one should ever shame anybody on any decision that they make. I will say that I don't think it's talked about enough how stressful breastfeeding and or pumping can be on a brand new mom. Even if you do have that support system, your body is going through so many changes. Once that baby it comes out and now you have this life that you have to take care of and you have your body that is just going haywire. Body's just going through so much and you're trying to figure your own self out. You're trying to figure out your baby. You're trying to figure out your new life, whether it's your first or it's your, fourth. You're trying to figure out your new flow. So I just don't think that it's talked about enough how difficult it is. And I do know plenty of people that are 100% all about the boob. And that's great because if that works for them, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like do it. You get it. That's amazing. Me personally, my goal was to pump. Again, Bethany, to your point, it is cheaper. You have your own milk. So if you're able to produce and you're able to do it, that's great. For me, after my delivery, it just really wasn't an option. I was kind of handed the baby and they were like, okay, what do you want to do? And, after almost hitting 4 hours of pushing, my body was, it's like running a marathon, right? For anybody that's given birth, regardless of how, at the end of it, you're like, I don't know what my name is right now, So my choice at that point was to just go straight to bottle. And I will say I was lucky enough to get the care from the nurses in the hospital. That I never felt judged. I have heard stories from other women that felt very judged in a hospital. I've heard stories from other women that have felt very judged by friends or family choosing to go that route. The positives for me that I can say my experience was is that I knew that the baby was getting the nutrients that she needed. And, like Crystal was mentioning before, like antibodies, things like that. Like, I understand that those are things that you kind of have to forego maybe. But it's also, for me, I knew that she wasn't dependent on the nutrients that I was eating. Am I eating the right things that she needs? And, because again, when your body's going through all those changes, I went through a period of like, I really didn't eat much for a couple weeks. I just wasn't hungry. And if I'm not eating, then she's not getting the nutrients that she would have needed, so there's always, something that I was thankful for, knowing that she's getting what she needs. But the other thing is I knew the exact amount that she was getting. And to me, that was something so, looking back on it now, I didn't know at the time, but now looking back on it, I am so thankful that I knew the exact amount of formula, whether it was that milk, I guess, rather. I knew the exact milk ounces that she was getting. She wasn't under eating. She wasn't overeating, because I knew exactly what she was getting. And so that worked for me. I'm not saying it works for everybody, but those were the positives that I experienced by doing the bottle. The negatives are obviously it's expensive. It does get to be pretty pricey. Plus it's making the bottle. So in the middle of the night when, the baby wakes up hungry, it's not just rolling over, grabbing her out of the bassinet and having her go right to the boob, where here's your food. It's, oh my God, I gotta go downstairs and make a bottle,
Yeah.
So those are my honest thoughts.
And Amanda, the big thing that you said was also really big for me. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on this one, Crystal. Knowing how much my son was eating, and I know that I can be a control freak, so like I will definitely throw that out there. But knowing how much he ate and not having to question it, knowing that when I put him to bed at night, if he woke up in the middle of the night, I didn't have to wonder whether it was a wet diaper or whether it was because he was hungry, because I knew exactly how much he'd eaten. I knew if he needed more. Like, that was such a relief for me. And that came with the exclusive pumping as well as formula, right? We measured. How did you handle that?
So my son is 10, so it's been a while. So I don't remember worrying so much about how much he was eating from breastfeeding. I felt that, from what I remember, he would eat longer as I knew he was having a growth spurt. And then when I did pump, because when I went back to work, I was pumping then, so I was pumping and breastfeeding, I could tell that I was making more as he grew. I don't know. I felt like we just kind of, in that sense, had a flow where he didn't seem like his weight was fine and he seemed happy. So I don't think that was ever really a worry for me.
Yeah.
I had a slightly different situation too, where around 3 months, we discovered my son had a severe dairy allergy. So at that point I had just gone back to work and I was pumping, my supply was going down. So I had started giving him a little bit of formula, and that's when he started getting really sick from the formula. And that's when we discovered his allergy. So at that point I had actually quit breastfeeding because I was too worried about what I could eat and what he would react to and things like that. So we went to strictly formula then. And let me tell you, formula for a dairy allergy is very expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive to begin with. And then when you add that in on top, plus the stress of the allergy itself, that's
Absolutely.
awful.
But I don't ever remember worrying about how much he was getting because, like I said, he always seemed to be happy and he was gaining weight and hitting his milestones and everything. So I just didn't really worry about that.
Yeah.
I think I was too tired and my nipples hurt too much to worry about that.
I could only imagine. Wow. I think this, we should end this on a sore nipple note. I think that's good.
I agree.
Oh, all right. Well, Crystal, thank you so much for your insight. Thank you for telling us about your work and your passion and your experience. And thank you for trying to cure cancer.
Absolutely.
You're literally doing that.
It is my passion and I love it. And I can't imagine doing anything else.
Yay.
That's amazing. It was so great having you on. Thank you so much, Crystal.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we will talk to you next week with another guest.
Yes. Until next week. Can't wait.
Everyone have a wonderful one and talk to you later. Love you.
Love you. Love you. Bye. A squeaky nose breath, you know what I'm talking about when you can hear and you're like, can you blow your nose or pick it? At this point, just pick it because I need this to go away.
Just get your finger up there and get it done.
It's just
a squeaky nose breath.
I know how to switch this
Please reach out to us via email at momtalkswithmysister@gmail.com. As well, you can reach out to us on Instagram at withmysisterpod, where you can find photos pertaining to every week's episode and much, much more.
Please note, the views and opinions shared by our guests are just that, opinions. They do not necessarily reflect our own views on topics discussed.
So please keep an open mind while listening, as nothing about our podcast is meant to be hurtful or exclusive. Thanks for joining.